Hello, welcome everybody to the 16th World Wushu Championship show. I'm your host, Roger, and my guest today is Anthony Chen. Hey, Anthony, welcome.
Hey Roger, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Anthony is a USAWKF board member and is also a certified IWUF judge. So, yeah, a lot of great insights on judging and just being a board member coming up here. So, you're a certified judge, and I guess what did you learn as a certified judge that you wish you knew as an athlete
Mm.
back in the day, if you could go back?
Knowing what I know now, I think it's more important that my coaches know the rules very well. As an athlete, you should be focused on your routines and mostly just whatever your coach tells you. Because if you're too focused on the rules, you can kind of, you know, bash yourself in the head mentally and really focus too much on the mistakes that you have made in the routine. So I think it's more important that I wish my coaches knew a little bit more about the rules back then. Then that would help guide me in understanding what the criterias are for nonconformity.
So, like, instead of you as an athlete knowing maybe on this balance, you got to get your back thigh flat and all these other rules, your back sweep and all this stuff. Like, the coach is
Yeah,
just telling you on the spot, like, fix that really fast.
yeah, a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
The coach should be very focused on exactly what it is. I've seen other coaches say, "Oh, that's a deduction," and maybe that's not the best way to go. More focused, like, "Hey, you need to go lower. You need to get that angle more correct. Your leg is kicking too low. Kick higher."
Hmm.
Uh, Rather than like, because if you're focused on, "Oh, that could be a deduction," then you're gonna be like, "Oh man, I just screwed that one up again," or you're not thinking about the movement the way you should. You should be thinking about the the routine as a whole rather than just like every single bits and pieces, in my
Makes
opinion.
sense. Yeah. Awesome. Can you tell me about the different stages on becoming a judge? Like, what levels are there?
Yeah, so at least for the United States, we started off with a USAWKF judge certification program first.
Mm.
That eventually, more recently, moved into Pan American Wushu Federation. So we went into like a Pan American uh, way of judging, which is based off of the IWF. Now, the thing is, because USAWKF kind of is one of the more active federations in Pan America. So we kind of spearheaded that direction for just all the national federations, just because some of the national federations are too small to create their own certification program. But at the same time, they may be a little bit too behind to join IWF. So at least for us, if you're in the US, you want to become a judge, I would say, get more involved with USCWKF, kind of learn to see if this is the direction that you want to go. There are Pan American Wushu Federation um, courses every year. And so I think we certify anywhere from 10 to 20 a year.
Mhm.
And that gives you an opportunity to judge and see if you still want to go that route. From
Cool.
there, if you stay active, um, you could be selected as a candidate for the IWF judge. There's only 5 spots per IWF circuit. So back then, a way to get into IWF judging, it would happen only every 4 years. Then it dropped down to 2 years. They create more
Nice.
certifications, but each federation can only send 5.
Mm. Do you have an opinion on who should try to be a judge? Do you recommend parents or coaches or?
Mm, I recommend anyone that is truly interested in helping the sport of wushu internationally.
Mm.
It could be a parent, it could be a coach, it could be an athlete. Um, sometimes we do come across people who are more interested in serving their purposes um, singularly. But I think if you're interested in helping the federation, you'll gain more out of it, and you'll enjoy more of um, the judging path. So
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah, whether you're a coach, athlete, or parent, it doesn't
Okay.
matter. But definitely having wushu experiences is a must.
Yeah. Yeah. So for people who are watching this, I also went through the judging certification course for the Pan American region. And so I know what Anthony's talking about. Like, if you're going to go for a certification, you actually have to show some wushu. So
All right.
that was super fun. Like,
Yeah.
you got all these pretty famous coaches, like, all training together
Yeah.
and
It's
doing
always
wushu.
entertaining watching everyone train, and then you go into your exam. There are
Yeah.
three for so you had three as well, right? Three examinations, or was it two back then?
I think two. Yeah.
There's two. Yeah. So we just recently added a third one. It was the practical and the technical. The technical is a written exam. The
Mm.
practical is actually doing a routine, um, a compulsory routine, and no, technical, um, theoretical. Sorry, theoreticals are written. Technical is the knowing the routine, and then practical is where we actually use a scoring system. So then you're shown a series of videos. So that was more recently added in, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
That gives people more experience, pressing the buttons and knowing the codes right on the spot.
Wow. That's awesome. What happens when you actually, like, I guess you have a parent or a coach, maybe they're older or something. Maybe they have limitations. They can't really do the compulsories anymore. Is there any
Right.
considerations there?
Yeah. The routines. Um, so the practical or the technical examination doesn't require you to do any nandu.
Mm.
So even at IWF, you see a lot of famous older athletes. They don't even risk the jumping.
Yeah.
Movements can be, you can show your wushu just through your movements and your technique. You don't need to do nandu
Makes
at that
sense.
point. Um, but there is a cap, at least for IWF, at the age of 50. So anyone
Okay.
above can't register anymore. But if you had started before 50, you can continue renewing, but no one beyond after that. But
Oh, it's good to
the
know.
Pan American Wushu Federation judges don't have an age limit on it.
Okay. Makes sense. And for people out there, like, how do you know, Anthony, how long you could keep your license for and how often you need to renew and all this stuff to keep active?
Ooh,
Or could
I
I
don't
edit
know.
this out later?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Pan American one,
Mhm.
but the International Wushu Federation, you have to renew every 4 years. Within that 4 years, you have to judge at least one international tournament.
Okay.
So whether you're selected by your national federation or selected as a independent judge, these are ways to make sure you retain your certification. Now, even then, after first you have to pass, right?
Yeah.
Once you pass a judge, and then you have to pass it again the second time, and the criteria gets tighter. Meaning, um, this last time around, if you're a new judge, you only had to be 70% combined
Mm.
score or higher. But then if you're renewing, you have to be 80% or higher.
Got it.
So yeah,
Nice.
there's a there's a need for you to continue your studies.
For sure. Let's see, we got the Pan American Kung Fu Championships coming up in Toronto. Um, do you know what the status on that is? Who gets the judge and they selected? I don't even know.
Uh, that one I would assume is the Pan American Wushu Federation Judges Committee.
Okay.
At least for me, I'm part of the USAWKF Judges Committee, and
Yeah.
so for us, like the judges for team trials. So I'm assuming that the Pan American, the POF Judges Committee will select the judges for that.
Got it. Makes sense. All
But
right.
as I
Yeah.
believe, since Canada's a host nation, they might direct that as well, or at
Uh,
least recommendations in.
Canada. Makes sense. Thanks for everyone in the audience submitting some questions, some judging questions. And Anthony, you can just say no comment if you don't want to answer any of these. But these
Yeah,
are very interesting.
sure.
Yeah. And I could chime in too if we need to give my opinion too. Have you ever felt personal bias when judging? Maybe your friend is an athlete. How do you deal with that?
Well, let me preface this, at least what we do in USAWKF. Um, we for our team trials, we select judges who don't have any connections to the athletes. So
Mm.
generally, you're going to get previous athletes or judges who don't have any schools, who don't have any connections. Now with a wider pool, we can do that. Back then, we weren't so much. But but going to the question, um, there's always going to be an inherent bias uh, when it comes to judging or unconscious bias, and that happens whether the judge knows it or not. Luckily, I think the judging system allows for errors like that. For example, I mean, this is specifically talking about the B scoring, which is overall performance, which is, I would say, probably the least objective of the three judging panels on there. Now you have five judges that are going to select the score. The head judge is the moderator and will direct them if they are pulling the bar up or down too far. Um, but to the question, you know, I think of like I think of judging like like a job, right? Like when you're an athlete, your job is to complete your routine the best manner possible, least amount of mistakes. Now, when you go into judging, I kind of think of it the same way, right? You're studying to be objective. You're studying the what makes this movement okay, what makes this movement not okay, what makes it superior, which one makes it inferior. So you're focused at the game at hand or the job at hand. I don't think it's too difficult
Mm-hmm.
personally, but yeah, like you sometimes you can't control the fact that you have a friend. Um, I think that's where the head judge is always moderating in case, like I said, sometimes it's not malicious and the score goes up for your, let's say you are let's talk about international, right? You're an American judge and you become an outlier when an athlete comes up. The head judge is going to see that and uh, dependent on the type of score that could be flagged, there could be consequences set forth by the head
Mm.
judge. So um, I think there's checks and balances that help that. So I wouldn't blame people. Like I said, no one's not. I don't think people at that level are maliciously trying to raise scores. Some people are, but I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think everyone knows what the job is.
Ooh. Anthony, you were talking about like probably they don't own a school or they're a former athlete. I guess what happens if they're a former athlete but they own a school? Because we've got a
There's
lot of former athletes who own schools.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have yeah. I know. At some point, there's not enough judges, right? I
Yeah.
th- what we've done before in the past, and we're still trying to figure out a better solution. It's a solution, not the best, but we would rotate out the judges. So this has happened at least in USAWKF. That's what we would do. If your athlete goes up, you raise your hand, you let yourself out, and then a replacement judge comes in that has no relation that will judge. In IWF, you know, some countries, some judges are going to score their own country. For the most part, they have no connection with the athletes.
Mm.
Um, so that's usually not a problem. But again, in IWF, there are always sideline judges in case there are any issues.
Makes sense. Nice. How do you not get tired after judging athlete number 10, number 20, then number 50?
Uh, I I don't. It's not to me. It's not tiring.
Yeah.
I'm not tired. I'm not tired as the athletes, to be honest. I mean, they're doing almost an hour, a minute and a half routine. It's not. I don't know. I think if you like Wushu, you don't really get tired of watching the videos. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it just says you yourself. I'm sure you've watched videos for hours.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you're as a judge, it's our job. So
Mm.
you owe something to the athlete. You owe the focus. You owe them a proper score. So
Yeah.
um, there are times when judges do get fatigued, and that's when certain tournaments you'll see they may shut down the competition or shut down the session if it gets too long. That usually only happens in, I would say, national federations and maybe the World Wushu Championships. But generally, there are enough sideline judges to rotate people out.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rules are the rules. The bow stance, the gongbu is like deducted or not. It's like our job
Right.
to look at that. Yeah. What do you look for in the B score?
Well, B score. If you know the rule book, it's pretty straightforward. It requires a lecturer to kind of go into it, but I mean, it all comes down to find an easy way to be more brief. It's like, where's the martial element, right? First, like you have people who are fast, explosive, rhythm. They may have bad basics, but it all comes down to basics, right? Like first, is there martial intent? Are they doing the method as it was intended, right? If they're punching and all of a sudden like their fist looks all weird or they're not looking at their fist when they're punching, I mean, then that tells the judge like, okay, well, they don't really understand what they're doing. Um, strength is strength is important. Then coordination of the hands, arms. Again, like I said, there are times when people will do an attacking movement but not look in the direction of attack. That could be a sign that they're just flailing their body parts and not paying attention. Um, and then later on, that's when speed comes in. Once people have that foundation for wushu, then you start to look at speed, right?
Mm.
You look at speed, and then how do you differentiate speed? The next part would be rhythm and explosive and expression, right? Those are the next things that people look. It's more clear in higher level athletes when it comes to B judging, because when it comes to more beginner athletes, you have some that excel faster than the others. Some kids that might have more strength, but then this other kid is very clear, but his power is very weak. So there are ways you kind of have to gauge that a certain way.
Okay.
But for the most part, I would say like being clean, being crisp, well, knowing the movements first, then being clean, then crisp, then speed, then rhythm and expression from there.
Nice. Thanks, Anthony, for sharing your knowledge on that. I think that's
Yeah.
people always wonder about that stuff. This topic kind of gets me to like you talk about good basics
Mm-hmm.
and are they doing the movement correct? So I think about compulsory routines. I feel
Right.
like we could watch the video, we could read the book.
Um, I think IWF, the reason why they created compulsory was for that standard. It's still a little bit, it's not perfect yet, but the
Yeah.
idea is the compulsory is supposed to be, the main standard. They put videos out, they put books out. They're finding what is the best method for people to see how the routine is done. And right now, they move to videos. So
Okay.
videos would be the main way to go by it.
Yeah.
Uh, and the thing about the compulsory movements are the people have asked me like, oh, well, why did I get deducted for this movement? I'm like, well, you didn't do that movement. Like, no, I did. It's like, no, that watch the video again. Like the angle is wrong. Look at the kicking leg. It's like you gotta look specifically at the details. In this
Yeah.
case, the details matter a lot.
Hmm. So first compulsory long fist, are you talking about Yen Wen Qing? That grainy video is probably
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, the first compulsories, just remember the first compulsories were mostly routines from one athlete.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more stylistic components to it, which make them more difficult compulsories, but also more exciting to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
second compulsory is when it was started a collaboration with a bunch of athletes and judges and coaches to develop them and so forth.
Nice.
When you watch compulsories, you got to take out any stylistic, like
Mhm.
any extra movements, deduction. Any missing movements, deduction. Any
Yeah.
extra step, you just have to stick with exactly what that video shows you.
Makes
Nothing extra.
sense.
Don't. They're not supposed to show any style. Like
Yeah.
my way. Yeah.
Sounds good, Anthony. Sounds good. Do you have an opinion on the new rules that they're testing out in China?
Not really. I'm. I kind of just watching to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think Wushu's always evolving as a sport. And I think they're always testing to see what is working, what's not. We've seen a few things come and go, or
Mm.
they've changed things from time to time. So I don't know. I think let's see if this evolves the right way. It may not. I mean, unlimited non-do is pretty intense,
Yeah.
but it may, as most people, I think, whose practitioners have seen, like, man, I cannot do all that stuff, and then you realize it kind of makes the routines a little bit choppy. But I don't know. Maybe it's the way to do it, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think only time will tell.
Nice. I'm glad you're like a non-trend guy. This question is about non-trend. Why was the kip up to Tishi included as part of the non-do when nobody in the history of Wushu was able to do it?
Uh, Good question.
Yeah.
I To be honest, I don't know. I think it could have been one of if you go through the rules and you break them down, um, I think I've broken it down. There are more non-do movements for Changchuan there are for Nanchuan or Tai Chi Chuan.
Mm.
So I think I'm just guessing. This is my personal opinion. They're just thinking of ways theoretically that Nanchuan could do a movement and add more non-do to their score and not just be repetitive. But yeah, I there are definitely some non-dos that were put in and taken out. I mean, another non-trend one was the gainer 360, right? That was put in and then taken out. I was like, nah, didn't work.
Yeah.
Again, like evolution of Wushu, right? Like you'll see it going and you'd be taken out. I was like, nah, maybe too many Earth athletes got hurt, or maybe the way of judging it is just not clear enough. So like I said, it's one of those things. Maybe it was just theoretically, maybe they can do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, nah, that didn't work. Let's take it out.
Yeah. Makes sense. Moving on. The 16th World Wushu Championships is coming up in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Are you excited about that one?
Yeah, I'm really
Super
excited.
excited. Yeah.
Was it 95s was our last one? It's
In
been really cool.
Baltimore.
Yeah,
Yeah. No doubt you'll be there, right?
yeah.
For
All
sure.
all board members will be there. We all have a
Okay.
role.
Okay.
It's about what mine is yet, but we'll have a role.
Okay.
Yeah, all hands on deck.
Nice. What's your what's your role as a board member? Can you describe that to us?
Um, Board members, uh, basically, we we work on the direction of the federation. Anywhere from addressing judging, technical events, any kind of areas that need promotional development, traditional. So every board member has their own committee that they're in charge of, um, and it's very broad. It's basically like, hey, we have something that we need to get done. You're on the board. Can you do it? So
Nice.
I guess it's very. I don't have a direct answer to that, but we kind of do everything. Like if there's something that needs to be done, we'll do it.
Is there particular committees you're part of or spearheading?
Yeah. So I'm the chairperson of the promotion and development. So the USAWKF website. I don't do directly all those things, but I have a really strong team that help me with the website, the social media, newsletters. So we all kind of work together and and try and make it happen. The
Nice.
other committee I'm in charge of is the judges committee, and that one, our main job is to select the judges for team trials specifically, as well as create any kind of new criteria for judging in USAWKF.
Thanks for all your work on helping our federation. The website looks great.
Yeah,
We got nice carpet. It's like really going great. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, it's all the people that help.
Yeah. Is that a paid position, the board, or you're doing that all for
Oh
volunteer?
no, absolutely not.
Wow.
Uh,
Nice.
USAWKF is we're
Yeah.
a nonprofit organization, so everyone is just doing this on their own time. It's a labor of love. So
Nice.
we focus a lot on just trying to make Wushu succeed in US.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
a
it is a lot of time. USCWKF relies a lot on volunteers.
okay.
Yeah.
And a shout out to everybody who's working on the 16th World Wushu Championship. I know there's a lot of volunteers like myself and everyone on the media team. So shout out to all of you trying to make this tournament happen. A lot of work's going into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of work.
man, the
Really
logo looks great. All the videos coming out. It's really
yeah.
a lot of great work. A couple random questions for you. You mentioned that you're a commentator
Yeah.
for the was it the 2019 games? I can't
Yeah.
remember.
15, 17, 19. Yeah.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Do you enjoy
Yeah.
doing that?
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's commenting on wushu. You never know when to say too little or too much.
Yeah.
You don't know the audience. I know definitely athletes like, oh, why do you say it like that? It's like, well, I'm not sure what other way you can say it. It's all, you know, we're trying to focus on seeing what, like I said, we're testing the waters too.
Yeah,
We're seeing how to commentate to make it enjoyable for the common audience.
for sure.
But no, it's definitely fun and interesting.
I was watching like the World Junior Championships, and
Yeah,
those guys are like so energetic.
yeah,
They
yeah,
had so much energy.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like commentators got to know the rules. They got to spit out the codes for everybody so people know what we're talking about. Stuff
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some tidbits about the athlete, something interesting. Yeah. Non-train question. Um,
Yep.
what's your recommendation if they're showing an interest in non-train? Like, what's the path to be a
And
great athlete?
non-trend.
Yeah.
Um, to be a great athlete in non-trend. Um,
I mean, maybe God, I'm just thinking of this student I have. She's like 7 years old.
yeah, yeah.
She tried non-train and she's like, oh, I love this. So I'm like trying to see how to develop her and what she should
I
do.
see.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, start with the basics, right?
Mhm.
It's all in the basics. I mean, non-trend is all about stance work, explosive power. So sometimes it comes natural to certain people and certain body types. So it's good, but anyone can develop that. So you just have to watch a lot of videos, practice the basics. I think it would give you a good foundation for Mandarin in general.
Because in Chongchuan, they got the elementary Chongchuan, the
Yep.
32s, I guess.
Right.
Is there equivalent for non-Chuan?
I don't think so in not officially.
Yeah.
There are videos of there are IWF videos of elementary Nanchen forms out there, and they're pretty good.
Mm.
I recommend them. They're the grainy videos
Yeah.
that you see there. They're also just two sections. So I would say start with that one. Those are good because they basically put all the non-trend combinations in there, and so you just practice that over and over, just like
Yeah.
the elementary tongue trend.
Okay. Because I know some people like jump straight to first compulsory. I'm just not sure if
Right.
that's the best way.
Um,
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's always the elementary forms. I would say like I coached at UC San Diego
Mm.
out here, and it's hard to get people interested in just elementary forms. At the same time, the compulsories are just too advanced.
Yeah.
So what we worked on was trying to create intermediate forms ourselves, and
Nice.
so whether two sections or just limiting the amount of difficult movements, taking out all the stylistic components that you don't need, and just making it more more basic but intermediate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anthony, do you think the USA should have a central location for all the USA team members to train together at? I've seen that in other countries.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
I know that's difficult just because the way our federation is, and how big the country is, it's not as
Mhm.
easy. You know, some some federations are state sponsored, so they have that ability to do it, and athletes are paid. But these are all, like USWKF, the athletes are volunteers themselves and
Yeah.
volunteering to bring themselves out to the competitions and compete. Um, I know actually back in '95, there was uh, there was I think we did that. The U.S. team trained at Ome
Mm,
on the East Coast together, and Lu Shaolin was the head coach, and I think it was for like a couple of weeks. They
yeah,
had a they trained together, and that was kind of cool. Be nice to do that again.
for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, I think that would be the way to do it.
Nice. That's so interesting. There's definitely like you got Ome on the East Coast, you got elite Kung Fu on the West Coast. Feels like very strong schools.
Mhm.
Do you think we're like together or there's a divide? I feel like we're kind of together as a country.
I think
But
so.
yeah.
I th- I think right now is a lot different than it was back then.
Mhm.
I think when I was an athlete, things were transitioning towards people. It used to be taboo to go from one school to another or interact with
Mm,
people in different schools. I think as Wushu grew in U.S., there's just no choice. You go here for school, and then you have to join another school. And I think a lot of the coaches have become more open to
mm,
that concept, and I think it's also a way to grow. And at the same time, the relationships have grown. You have to think about all the Wushu schools back then were really new, and nowadays they've been around for a while, over 15 years, and they all know each other. So
yeah,
we're pretty together.
for sure. I just talked to like Lucy and Mia, and they grew up like in Maryland.
Yeah,
And then Mia had to travel to LA for a job. And it's like,
yeah,
hey, maybe there's an opportunity she could train on the West Coast. It's like,
yeah,
that's
definitely.
why people have to move, for
Yeah,
work or, yeah, it's really cool.
yeah.
Do you feel like it's fair that you make like the USA team based on a team trials, like the 3-day event, or you feel like it should be, I don't know, point system, kind of like golf or racing? Like they get points over certain tournaments and then
Right.
yeah, something like that.
It's funny you say that. That's been a discussion for quite a number of years,
Mm,
and how to implement that. If you ever ran a tournament, you'll see how much cost it is and how it puts a lot of people in debt. So it's very difficult to run a tournament, multiple tournaments at a time. That being said, I think well, Matt Wong's probably the one to speak to this. He's got a better direction where it's going, but we are looking eventually to create a criteria before you go to team trials. Just you know, like we said, team trials 3-day event. But what happens when it's just a 1-day event and the rental for the venue just costs more than the registration itself, right?
mm,
Right, what do you do? So we're looking to, since we've implemented the national rankings, that's going to be yearly. The hope is to make it yearly, and from there, that would be almost like, don't quote me on this. I don't know for sure, but I mean that this is the direction we're hoping to make that like prerequisite for team trials.
mm. Awesome. I'm I'm glad you're all thinking about that and stuff. So it's
I
good.
mean, we were all athletes at some point,
Yeah,
so
grow the
we're
sport.
trying to see what works for everyone.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we could almost end this interview, Anthony. I guess people will see you as judge and all this. I don't know. Is there anything you could tell people like outside of Wushu, what you do or how you are?
Outside of Wushu,
Yeah, like what's your profession or what do you
my
like?
what I like,
Yeah,
um, well, my profession, I'm a brewer. I've been working in the brewing industry for 15 years, so
nice.
I drink beer. Um, I mean, that's all there is to know. Really. I do
Nice.
wushu and drink beer.
Okay.
That's all I do it. Yeah,
That's your life, huh? Those two things. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and my family. Yeah,
Okay.
those are my three things.
Okay. And you live on the West Coast, right? Like your
Yeah,
sunny
live in
weather.
sunny San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah,
Man.
75 degrees for most of the year. It's
Okay.
been a little warm, is like 85 for us.
All right. And then how can certified judges practice their craft? Like when they're not judging?
When they're not judging.
Like
Uh,
we're just waiting around. How can we hone our skills and
There are a lot of local tournaments. I think volunteering yourself, maybe talking to tournament organizers or people. There's always someone connected to these tournaments and just saying like, "Hey, I'm this judge. If you need extra judges, USAWKF, we have a set of sponsored or not sanctioned
Mm.
tournaments. But there's still not that many, but there are a lot of local tournaments you can volunteer and judge at. But they might not all do the IWF style judging, which is okay, but that's still a way for you to practice. You can still like in your head or write, while you're judging, write down the deduction codes or, maybe one session you want to focus on your A scoring, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one you want to focus on your C. Of course, like most of these non IWF ones are just going to have you throw up a B score,
Yeah.
and that's okay too. So you already have that mentally. I mean, you'll know usually by the first quarter of the form where the athlete's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And from there, I would just practice your A or C. And
Okay.
actually, that was a way I started doing it too.
Makes sense. Yeah, I ran into that when I went to the Can-Am games in Vancouver. It was like
Mhm.
recently in May. Um, Brought a few of my students and then they asked me to judge all day.
Nice.
I was like, I'll do this, but I feel bad because I'm not there for my five students who are there. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
hard. I mean, at least it's hard. It's hard to be dual, right? You got to
right.
be the coach or the judge. You just have to
Yeah,
choose.
yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. I think that's good.
Cool.
Anything else you want to say or mention? Any questions or anything?
No,
We're
no, no
good?
question. Yeah,
Okay,
we're good.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anthony Chen, for coming on the show. We really appreciate you judging and all your volunteer work with the USAWKF.
So
It's
yeah,
really good. And then we'll see you in Texas.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone for
All right.
watching. And we'll see you on the next show. All right. Thanks.